which we obtain are in breathwork, and they are 3D sequences. So they can be fused with your radiation planning protocol. And the T2 weighted images and the diffusion images are triggered sequences. So those are those are 2D sequences, not 3D sequences. So those sequences can be used as an overlay to actually make us wiser about the tumor, but ultimately the post-contrast T1 has to be fused.
Okay, another question is, well, some SCC are non-enhancing. So we have treated a patient with a totally non-enhancing. How to handle these situations, and any specific MRI contrast or thing you will suggest?
Right. So these hypoenhancing SCCs are best seen on delayed hepatobiliary phase MRI. Delayed hepatobiliary phase MRI is very good in delineating dysplastic nodules also. Sometimes there may be dysplastic nodules which are low grade, which are not showing any significant arterial phase enhancement or hypoenhancement in the equilibrium phases. And sometimes they may be picked up only on delayed hepatobiliary phase. So they are most specific for identifying any abnormal liver lesion.
Hello. Okay. There is a question by Dr. Ravi Shankar. How to report incidentally detected liver mass in non-triple phase CCT study, which is suspicious for non-benign nature or SCC when there is no arterial phase study? Can lyrates be applied in a non-arterial phase CCT study?
No, sir. Lyrates cannot be applied on that. If there is a absence of arterial phase in the scan, then lyrates cannot be applied.
Okay. And how there is a question, how early can we repeat diffusion weighted MRI post SBRT to see response?
So the timing of a scan remains the same, 1, 3, 6, 9, 12. And in the initial phases, again, because of treatment related changes, there may be heterogeneity in the background, and then we can do follow-up. Also, the ADC maps have been found to be very useful in the follow-up. Like we saw in the paper, if there's a 25% increase in the ADC value, then it indicates a very favorable outcome. So in the post-treatment setup, all the impression may not be given at a early post-treatment image. If the patient is followed up, then we can give a proper answer whether there is a treatment change or it's a recurrence or residual disease.
There is a question, if radiologists are not sure whether it is SCC or intrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma, then how we can go for conclusion whether we make DD of both or we do some more information by MRI or PET-CT? How we sure about this?
Right. So PET-CT can definitely make us wiser in this context because we know that PET-CT shows very high uptake for FDG for cholangiocarcinoma compared to HCC. So if there is a significantly high uptake of FDG, then it indicates either a cholangiocarcinoma or an aggressive HCC, and both have to be treated the similar way. MRI may also make us wiser by showing various parameters on other sequences, but may not give as conclusive answer as a PET-CT. Technically, biopsy is the best, but again, because of limitations in a cirrhotic liver, it may not be advisable in every case. And also, one needs to see whether this differentiation makes any difference to the management. If anyway patient is going for hepatectomy, then but yes, PET-CT may be helpful because if there is cholangiocarcinoma, suspicion of cholangiocarcinoma, it is better to look for extrahepatic disease more carefully than HCC.
Okay. Is you feel any difficulty in post-test MRI about whether recurrence or residual? How we can address this issue, whether a post-test, how much residual is remaining or what is the response?
Yes, sir. It's a tricky situation. In post-test scan, it's not very easy to delineate the recurrent tumor, especially in the early phases. So again, we need to see follow-up imaging and we need to follow the scan on diffusion images, contrast images, and accordingly, if there is a progressive decrease in diffusion and decrease in contrast, then it goes towards radiation change, treatment changes. And also, another very important thing is vascular stenosis, which I have seen in my practice, that if there is a progressive portal vein stenosis going on in a case of treated cholangiocarcinoma, a lot of time in the treated tumor bed, it is very difficult to see the tumor also. There may be just sheet-like infiltration. So if you are seeing portal vein stenosis which has progressed over a few month interval, then it is indicative of a progressive disease. This is, I have seen this in practice. I have not really read about it, but I have correlated it with CA19-9 also. Whenever we see a progressive vascular invasion, even without seeing a tumor mass, this may suggest a progressive disease.
Okay. I think
The question here. Hello.
Yeah, hi, please.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shagun here
Yeah,
from
Dr.
SCPJ.
Shagun. Yeah.
So regarding collision tumors, does these tumor markers help you in any way? Suppose there is a discrepancy and you have a CEA level and a AFP level, both elevated. Do they help you clinch the diagnosis?
They definitely help. CA19-9 is elevated in a collision tumor. AFP and CA19 both may be elevated. In fact, AFP elevation may or may not be seen with HCC. So in collision tumor, a lot of times CA19-9 is elevated, and we get this morphology of tumor like HCC. So in those cases, we can suggest a possibility of collision tumor, because AFP may not be elevated with all HCCs.
I think if no more question, I can ask last question. Ma'am, which yeah, please.
Actually, no, there are so many questions on chat box. Please see. We have left.
Yeah, I have covered, I think, most of question. If anyone left, they can ask.
Dr. Ruchi, can you see your chat box to see?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can see the
Dr. Arun, you ask your question, please.
Yeah, for the academic, there are a lot of students also there. Which type of lesion you think they are not suitable for RFA?
Right. So there are a lot of contraindications to RFA, like we discussed the size of tumor. If it is larger, usually the response is best in a tumor less than 3 centimeter. If the tumor is more than 3 centimeter, then the response is not as good. Also, when it is situated close to the surface or close to the hilum or close to a vessel, close to a surface, there may be peritonitis. Close to a hilum, there may be biliary injury, or close to a vessel, there may be heat sink effect. Close to gallbladder, there may be secondary cholecystitis. So also sometimes a tumor may be in such a location that the probe may be difficult. It may difficult to access. So in those situations, few of the situations, like in cases where the tumor is close to vessel, microwave is a safer option. It is not hampered by the heat sink effect. And sometimes we need to do hydrodissection of the peritoneal cavity when the tumor is close to surface of the liver. Then we may create a pseudoscitis kind of appearance, so that the irritation of peritoneum is not that much. So there are various contraindications in different situations.
Okay, nice. Dr. Vinita, are you here? Dr. Vinita? Hello? Okay, I think...
Dr. Deepti, do you want to ask any questions? She is an ILBS consultant. Dr. Deepti Sharma?
Hello, ma'am.
Do you want to ask anything? Yeah.
Yes. Ma'am, I just want to know that is there any increased surge in CA19.9 after radiation therapy? In case of cholangiocarcinoma and HCC also. Because in many of our patients, CA19.9 increases, but on PET scan, even after 3 months, there is no uptake.
I think Dr. Rashi and Dr. Verma will be better people to ask this question, to answer this question. Maybe if there is a biliary irritation, I'm not aware of this.
Okay.
Post-RT, basically CA 19.9 is non-specific. It can be raised in many conditions. It can be raised in cholangitis. Any inflammatory condition or obstructive condition can cause severely raised CA 19.9. So it
Yeah.
is not specific for anything.
Doctor, you are absolutely right. Dr. Ruchi, have you checked chat box? All questions
I
are
can see
covered?
one more question. There is a question: what peculiarities in imaging in HCC arising in a Budd-Chiari patient? So
Yeah.
I didn't discuss LARATS in detail. It clearly says that it does not apply to patients with Budd-Chiari. In Budd-Chiari patient, because of veno-occlusive disease, there are a lot of nodular regenerative hyperplasia, and we can see a lot of benign nodules in the liver which show arterial phase enhancement. Some of these nodules may even show some washout on the delayed phases. So in those cases, imaging of HCC becomes very complicated. First of all, the size of nodule matters, and then a lot of time it has to be proved by FNAC or biopsy. If it is a larger, very large mass, then usually it is treated as HCC. But if it is a smaller lesion, then
Rasi, you are
it is
not.
difficult, very difficult to diagnose in a Budd-Chiari.
I think if all questions are covered, Dr. Arun, we can end the meeting.
Yeah, there is a last question just posted by Dr. Indu Bansal. How to assess tumor volume without volumetric imaging?
So for assessing tumor volume, we need some kind of 3D image. Even the in-phase out-phase image is 3D. The plain T1 which we acquire is 3D image. Because 2D image comes in slabs. 3D image is a volumetric image. So even if we have a basic 3D image, we can assess tumor volume manually. Or we can assess it on CT because all the CT images are basically volumetric.
Thank you, ma'am, for very nice informative lecture.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Anu?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ruchi. Thank you very much for such a nice presentation. It was very, very informative. Thank you very much.
I'm also glad. Thank you.
So I think there is no more question. Now we can close session.
Yeah, thank you.
And I thank you for participation. I thank you a lot. Thanks much to all our participants. With this, I close today's seminar. Thank you.